So today we're going to continue our mortgage discussion. And what we're going to do is we're going to determine monthly payments, the total amount paid, and the total interest charged when you are taking a mortgage loan. So we've dealt with interest a lot so far. Remember, interest is the amount of money paid for using the lender's money. So borrowing money is not free. You have to pay interest on it. Okay. So once you have a mortgage loan, you then have to figure out, okay, based on this mortgage, how much do I have to pay per month? And in order to figure that out, we have this fun formula. So again, if you have a graphing calculator, you're going to make this a little bit easier on yourself. But in this formula, P stands for the principal. Okay, so remember that's like the selling price of the house. Okay, the monthly interest payment is our I, and then the number of months required to repay the loan is N. So a lot of times they'll give you your loan in years, how many years you have to pay it off, but just realize that you have to make sure N is in months, same as our interest. It's a monthly interest payment. Okay. And then we have a couple more formulas for you. If you're trying to find the total amount that you're paying for your house, you're going to take your monthly payments and multiply it by the number of payments. So the number of monthly payments basically times N, okay, because that's the number of payments. And then your total interest charge, you're going to take your total amount paid and you're going to subtract the amount that your mortgage loan was for. So that'll tell you how much interest you paid because you're just subtracting what the selling price was from the total number that you've paid. Okay, so let's try one. It says Brett and Sandy got a mortgage loan for $199,000. So this is what this is going to look like. Your interest rate is 5%. Which is the same as 0.50. And you are given 30 years to pay off this loan, okay? Now, again, they give this to me in years, and my N has to be in months according to our formula, okay? Same thing with our percent. Our percent has to be in months as well, and the percentage and term that they give you, these are both in years. So before I can even do any calculating, the first thing I have to do is figure out what my I and what my N are going to be. So to find my I, I'm going to take my 5% interest, which I realized I didn't move my decimal enough places. There we go. My 5% interest, and I'm going to divide that by 12, right? Because that's going to tell me how much it is for 1 month, which is going to give me 0.0042. So again, that's what I'm going to use for my I. Now my N, again, they gave me 30 years, but I need to figure out how much that's going to be in total months. So I'm going to take my 30 years and multiply it by 12, which tells me I'm going to pay this off in 360 months. Okay, so now that I have my I and I have my N, I'm going to use this formula up here to find my monthly payments. All right, so M equals my P, which is my selling price, times, actually I'll do this, I, which I said was 0.0042, parenthesis, 1 plus 0.0042 to the N power, which we said was 360, all divided by 1 plus 0.0042, again to the nth power, minus 1. So that is just me plugging all of those numbers into this equation that I gave you guys up here. Okay, now if you're doing this with a graphing calculator, use the alpha Y enter and plug it in like that, completely like that on your own. If you're not using a graphing calculator, I would recommend typing in the top part, getting a number, typing in the bottom part and getting a number, and then dividing those two numbers. Okay, so take a second just to get that into your calculator and then make sure you get the same number as me. If you don't, call one of us over, but you should get $1,073.15. Okay, so double check that you get that in your calculator. Next question says, what is the total amount paid? So remember, that's going to be our monthly payment times our number of payments. So my monthly payment I just found times our number of payments, which remember is the same thing as N, which we found to be 360. So if we pay that amount each month for the entire term of the loan, we are paying $386,334 total. So then to figure out what is the total interest charged, you're going to take the total amount that you paid. So that's the number we got in part B. And you're going to subtract how much you bought the house for. So the selling price. So Brett and Sandy here paid a whopping $187,334 in interest for their house. Isn't that crazy? They bought a house for this much money, and since they had a mortgage loan and had to pay interest, this is how much extra money they had to pay on that mortgage loan. Yikes. Sometimes adulting is not fun. All right, example 2, very similar to example 1. So I'm going to have you guys work through this one a little bit more and just check your answers with mine. So again, first thing we have to do is figure out our I and figure out our N. So both of these here are in years, and we need to figure it out in months. So I'm going to take my percentage, just like I did before, and divide it by 12 to figure out how much interest I'm paying in 1 month. Okay, and that's going to be 0.0075. Then to find my N, just like before, I'm going to take the 30 years, multiply it by 12 to convert it to months, and my N is going to be 360 months. All right, so I would like you to go ahead and find your monthly payment. Remember, this is our principal. This is our I, and this is our N, and you're just going to plug that into the equation. All right, you should have gotten $1,601.20. So check your formula with mine. And then again, try typing it in your calculator and see if you're getting the same thing. If not, then make sure you're calling us over so we can figure out how your calculator is working differently. Okay, so now you're going to find what is the total amount paid. So again, use that amount paid formula and see if you can get an answer for part B. All right, you should have had that the total amount paid was $576,432. Okay, and then last part, use your total interest charged formula to now figure out the total amount of interest. All right, you should have gotten $377,432 in interest. Okay, I just want you to interpret this a little bit. Notice that Ben and Sandy paid the same amount for their mortgage loan. Well, They had the same mortgage loan, $199,000, right? Same mortgage loan as this one above, okay? Brett and Sandy had a 5% interest for 30 years. Ben and Sandy had a 9% interest for 30 years. And look at the difference in their interest amounts. Okay, quite a huge difference there. $187,334, $377,432. So why do you think it is so important to make sure when you're getting a mortgage loan to look at what the interest rate is going to be? All right, let's look at our last example here. And this one is the same math, but doesn't quite walk us through it the same way. So it says, Brandon's buying a house. His selling price is $365,000, and he's putting a down payment down of 20%. He has a 6% interest rate for 30 years. What is the total interest charge? Okay, so first thing we have to do, just like we did before, is we have to find our down payment. So I'm going to take the selling price and multiply it by our percent down payment, which was 20%. And I got that Brandon is putting down $73,000. All right, so to find the amount of his mortgage loan, just like we did yesterday, we take the selling price and we subtract how much Brandon put down for a down payment. And I got $292,000. This number right here is your principal, okay? The selling price or your mortgage loan amount is always going to be your P or your principal. Okay? So next thing we need to do is figure out our I and figure out our N. So remember, both of these things are given to us in years. So I'm going to take my 6% and divide it by 12 to figure out how much interest I am paying in 1 month, which is going to be 0.005. And then again, my N, I'm paying this off in 30 years. To convert that to months, I multiply that by 12, and I get my N to be 360 months. All right, so now let's figure out our monthly payment. And I will make that step 3. So our monthly payment is going to be plugging that into our monthly payment formula, and that's that big one. So my P, I said, was $292,000 times I times 1 plus I to the N divided by 1 plus 0.005 to the N minus 1. So type that in your calculator, and you should get that your monthly payment is $1,750.69. All right, so just like before, after we find our monthly payment, we have to go through and figure out our total amount paid. So our equation for that, remember, is to take our monthly payment and multiply that by N, which was 360. So our total amount paid is $630,248.40. So now to answer the question finally, to find our total interest, we then take our total amount paid and subtract our principal. And I know it's tempting to use that selling price number up here, but remember, we don't include the down payment in that. We already paid that off. So our total interest paid is $338,248.40.